For a large part of my early life, I felt limited, not just by cerebral palsy, but by what I had been taught that it meant, what someone like me could realistically do, who I could be, where my ceiling was. Over time, I didn't just hear these messages, I internalized them, and they quietly shaped my identity. Yet, underneath all that, there was always something else, a deep knowing that I was more than a condition, more than the roles I had been assigned, more than what I'd been allowed to imagine. That knowing didn't come from logic, it came from intuition, the part of the mind that accesses insight beyond conscious linear thought. For me, that intuition often communicated through dreams. One dream changed everything. I was standing at the bottom of a spiral staircase. At the top stood a man with no face. He didn't speak, he simply signaled for me to come up. As I climbed the stairs, I felt anxious. I didn't understand where I was going or why. When I reached the top, he asked me one question. If you didn't have your disability, would you have the same personality? I answered immediately, of course, I'm Charlie. He looked at me and said, no, you wouldn't. And in that moment, what I understood is that my experience had shaped capacities in me that wouldn't exist otherwise. Then he said something that completely stopped me. There is no real reason for you to have a disability. You have to give it a reason. And finally, he said, break your limits. That wasn't mysticism. That was intuition, higher order intelligence, reframing how I saw myself. What that experience showed me was simple and unsettling. There was an intelligence within me that understood my life more deeply than I consciously did. I wasn't broken. I wasn't lacking. I was interpreting myself through a narrow frame. My limits were not fixed facts. They were assumptions. What most people call intuition isn't guesswork. It's the higher mind processing pattern, possibility, and meaning beyond linear reasoning. Everyone has experienced this. When clarity arrives without force, when an answer appears fully formed, that's the higher mind solving problems that the conscious mind can't reach. This is consistent with what neuroscience shows about how the brain adapts. Identity isn't fixed. Learning reshapes perception. Repeated focus changes how we operate. This is also why figures like Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, and Stephen Hawking matter here. Einstein didn't arrive at relativity through equation first. He visualized riding on a beam of light. The mathematics came later. Tesla built entire machines in his mind, rotated them, tested them before ever touching materials. Stephen Hawking, despite extreme physical limitation, outpaced able-bodied physicists because abstraction, imagination, and intuition were unconstrained by his body. Different lives, same intelligence at work, not talent, not circumstance, higher mind access. What I do is help people learn how to access and work with this intelligence deliberately. So internalized limits stop quietly dictating what is possible. That applies whether those limits come from disability, come from ill health, upbringing, or life experience. And this is where I'll leave you. If that intelligence exists in me and it existed in them, what might be possible for you? If you could access the higher mind more deliberately, what limits would no longer make sense? What would change in how you live, decide, or contribute? Break your limits.